Hi, marketers. This is Dots, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is Richard Giorgi, and he is the Vice President of Sales and Enablement and Strategy at SwissRe. And we will be talking about performance marketing, ideas for better B2B sales enablement. I know you guys are ready, so let's get it. Richard, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Could you please tell us a bit about yourself, your background, your role, and how you come to become the god of sales enablement?
Yeah. So like you said, my name's Rich Giorgi, and I work at a company called SwissRe, which is a global reinsurer. So reinsurance is sort of a niche part of the insurance industry. So just to give some
Mm,
background on that, so what I talk about later kind of makes sense.
mm,
Our clients are insurance carriers, right? So they range from regional and specialty insurers all the way up through some of the largest insurance carriers in the world. And what we do is we basically assume a portion of our clients' risk.
okay.
And what that allows them to do is manage their exposure to large losses, enter new markets, or allocate their capital more effectively, by reducing their financial strain.
Mm,
And at Swiss Re, I'm part of the global marketing organization. And as you said, I kind of run sales enablement and strategy in the Americas. So I own a lot of things for our sales teams, including what we call funnel acceleration,
okay.
which is like targeted marketing initiatives, sales plays, content creation, things like that.
Mm,
I also own our sales methodology, training on new tools, localizing training for our global products, and then things like CRM and sales enablement and marketing tech stack as well. So I work closely with a lot of our local sales teams, as well as our solutions group, who sells some of our digital and consulting products. And, just I've been in roles like this, so sales enablement, sales ops, marketing, for really more
mm,
than a decade now. And I've spent time at a big four firm, also serving global asset managers and private equity clients. So I've kind of seen a lot. I've seen, from serving financial services and technology startups all the way up through some of the largest companies in the world.
yeah, absolutely. You do have a well decorated resume, so that was exciting. Preparing for this. But my question is, you wear a lot of hats currently, three hats, if to put it in a short form. And how do you get sales and marketing colleagues to work together? I'm asking that because if you are not aware, there is a problem right now, with marketing not wanting to work with sales. Well, I don't know if sales don't want to work with marketing, but I am in
Hmm.
marketing and I know that we just like to stay in our lane, which is so bad. And I've always said, if you want to be a growth marketer, you have to collaborate. You have to be in the sales loop.
Sure.
So how do you get that to work?
That's a great question. And, it really depends on the organization. It's not easy, right? I mean, you're right.
Mm,
Sales and marketing have traditionally been very siloed. Um, Marketing and sales, they're two different kinds of personalities, right? One
mhm,
side is creative in many ways. They're trying to drive certain metrics, certain things. Sales can tend to be a little bit more type A, in terms of the personalities, and that's very broadly speaking. But
yeah,
when you're sales, you're out there in front of the customers. You kind of feel like you're the man in the arena, the person in the arena out there, putting it out on the line every day, all day, taking the heat from customers. Whereas you feel like marketing, salespeople sometimes feel like marketing, they're the back office, which isn't really the case.
yeah,
And the thing that I try to drive a lot is the idea that sales and marketing are not just two sides of the same coin, but they're really part of this one journey that we've started calling revenue, right? It's the revenue
mhm,
journey. It's not just the
mm,
customer journey, the buyer journey. It's not just sales or marketing. It's one
mm,
revenue strategy from beginning to end, where many times sales doesn't even realize how much they're kicking back to marketing, or marketing doesn't realize how
yeah,
much what they're doing is being used by sales. So one of the keys is is helping to enlighten those leaders and those people in those roles about how much they do work together. Because when a salesperson gets a lead and they're working that lead and it turns out that person's not ready to buy, what happens? It goes back to marketing, right? Into a nurture campaign or some kind of client life cycle marketing campaign. And the same idea goes, when marketing needs better ideas on how to serve the customers or what the customers are looking for, who's the most invaluable resource to them? The sellers, because they're the ones speaking to prospects and customers all the time. So if you can kind of get them to see how much they really do need each other and kind of put those differences aside, and I think that's where sales enablement plays such a huge role. Kind of sitting in that point between, acting as the referee, so to speak, while sales and marketing are out on the pitch, kicking the ball back and forth to each other.
Yeah. And I would like you to write a little bit more on that. You mentioned something that relates to what I was about to ask you in terms of managing the expectations. So, for example, if there is a stall lead that doesn't convert, that goes back to marketing. So marketing should expect that and don't think it's an extra work on their plate, and so on and so forth. So in terms of like managing expectations, what do you think? I will ask this from a sales perspective. What do you think salespeople need from marketing, broadly, generally speaking, to get their job done within the life cycle of a client or a prospect?
I guess it really depends. I mean, what sales needs is good, relevant content, and they need, I guess. Well, the first thing is, I mean, we could talk a little bit about how they manage their expectations, and I think the most important thing is like clear goals, right? So marketing and sales need to be aligned goal wise. They need to be working towards the same KPIs. So that helps manage, helps with the managing of expectations, helps it make it a little bit easier, because marketing can say, this is what we can deliver in service of this goal, and sales can say the same thing, and both teams understand what kind of content is needed, how to deliver that content. And it's also super important, in my opinion, and this is something that I found, especially at very, very big companies, which the last two companies I've worked for are very large, having some kind of executive sponsorship, right? So sales and marketing teams need to feel like the KPIs are aligned to the wider company goals. You don't want sales or marketing to kind of take the lead, so to speak. Because then you run the risk of sales, like I said, kind of treating marketing like a back office or a support team, or marketing not listening to the needs of the sellers and thinking, okay, we know what we're doing from a marketing standpoint. We're the experts in content and demand gen and things like that. And it doesn't really matter what the salespeople say.
What's your feedback is,
Yeah. So, having that executive sponsorship kind of means that there's an arbitrator or of sorts, in the middle if they need that. But that's the most important thing, those clear goals, clear KPIs, where both teams feel like they're striving for the same thing. And that's, again, back to that idea of a revenue journey versus a sales or marketing silo.
Yeah, absolutely. Revenue vision, if I would add a third term there. And I like what you said about, having like a referee, and then I would, if to go on the football trend here or the soccer trend there, a VAR executive team, looking over the shoulder of the referee and making sure that loop continues. Because I think on their own, sales and marketing, they can only do so much. It's my personal goal to educate marketers that it might be scary to work with sales, because I can sit comfortably tracking CPMs and I'm getting paid, but it's getting into that, crossing that line to sales shows that you're making true commercial impact, but on its own, I think there's still some guidance that is needed. There still needs to be that entity, whether it's human or technology based, that is making sure that these teams continue to work together for that, shared revenue vision. Okay. Let me continue here in terms of, you mentioned something about the customer life cycle, and in the B2B space, there is the decision-making funnel, and stages within the decision-making funnel. How, again, imagine me from marketing talking to sales. How do we as marketers help to accelerate that process so that the sales happen much quicker than it should? How can we help sales get through that prospect decision-making process so that decision can be made and they can get the results that they need?
Right. Yeah. I mean, marketing is obviously integral to speeding up the customer process and all of that. And for too long, like we said, they've lived in these silos. So when sales is engaged in their own prospecting, whether they're doing outbound or sales plays or looking for referrals or things like that, marketing has to be aligned and providing support in a lot of different ways. So just off the top of my head, some of the places where marketing can be a huge help when they're thinking about how to drive real commercial impact, content marketing. So white papers, case studies, blog posts, establishing trust.
Yeah.
We're very big on that. Yeah, exactly. We're huge on that at SwissRe, where we want our customers to kind of view us as thought leaders in our industry. So when it comes time for them to use our services, we're top of mind with them. I could talk a little bit more about how we use targeted campaigns a little bit, but obviously this is an easy way to reach a lot of people, but the content has to be targeted, right? It has to be relevant. It has to be based on ideal customer profiles that marketing works with sales and product on together. So again, that collaboration is key. Social media, this is huge. This is a huge part of our communication strategy at SwissRe, as any company really, nowadays. And it's again, that thought leadership, conferences, events, field marketing. But the common theme through all of this is education, right? Prospects have a lot of ways that they could find out the information on their own. But that information, they could go to the company website. They could find referrals online and reviews online. They're getting emails. They're getting targeted marketing things. They're getting a lot from everywhere. So marketing can help accelerate that sales process by making sure that they're curating the right information for the right buyers at the right time. Right. That's the most important piece of all of this, is that you have to think, I'm a customer. Where am I getting my information from? How much of that information is out there? Is it confusing? Is it too much? Marketing can help curate that for the right people, and ensure, a much more seamless experience. And then that in turn helps sales.
Absolutely. Everything that you said is tied to account-based content marketing, which is why I enjoy that a lot. It's not easy. It's painful, but when you do it well, you get the right, results about that. And I like the fact that you started to give some examples on personalized content in trying to, navigate what I call the B2B customer digital buying. And you also agree with me here that whilst people can find, especially in the B2B, they can find information on their own as much as possible. Because of the nature of B2B, there is still a lot of consultation, a lot of knowledge that needs to be gathered on their end on how does this fit into my situation? How does this fit into my share of life or share of corporate life if it's in the B2B space, which is where all these things you've mentioned, targeted content at the right place, at the right time, for the right purpose, delivering the job to be done for these prospects so that they feel more confident, moving forward through the buyer's journey. I want to put you on the spot with this question, and feel free to take some time on it.
Sure.
There's been a rising trend of people advocating for more brand awareness content or campaigns versus lead gen or lead nurturing campaigns. The first question is that even correct? Is that, or does it depend? Then I would ask a follow-up.
I think it does depend.
Okay.
I'm not sure I've witnessed it completely myself, but I understand why that might be.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, when you say it depends, um, if you were, say, you get a budget for, I don't know, 5 million per year, and you are asked to split this between brand awareness campaigns and lead generation campaigns. Again, brand awareness, education, thought leadership, you mentioned all
Hmm.
that. Lead nurturing or lead generation, you're already targeting those who are already interested or those who are not interested at the moment, but they want to stay top of mind. What would be your preferred split? I'm not saying there's a one size fits all, but from a
Sure.
B2B perspective, what would be your rough split of allocating marketing resources for each campaign type?
Um, so that depends on a lot of factors. So, obviously both are, clearly have a place in the marketing mix.
Hmm.
One thing I will say, it's important to note that lead generation comes after awareness. So
Hmm.
when you're thinking about balancing that, you have to understand that you can have an awareness campaign without a lead generation strategy, which I don't
Hmm.
necessarily recommend, but you
Hmm.
can. But you cannot have a lead generation strategy if there's no awareness built beforehand. Your lead gen will fail. And I don't even know if I should say this. Well, let's say I was at a hypothetical company
Hmm.
where we have been working very closely with the salespeople on the lead gen side of things. And they've been doing targeted marketing through our sales enablement tool, and they've been going to conferences,
Hmm.
and things like that, and talking to current customers about cross sell opportunities, and they were having very, very little success. And the
Oh.
reality is because they were engaged very far down the selling funnel while their buyers were way, way, way at the top of the funnel. And that's because they
Ah.
had no awareness. There was
Awareness.
no broader awareness campaign to say, did you know SwissRe, or this hypothetical company, maybe edit that out, sells these type of products or has this type of service. You think of us
Hmm.
in the broad text of what we've been doing for 150 years, but we're an
Hmm.
evolving company. We have more than that. Um,
Yeah.
so I could tell you firsthand, I don't know what the right percentage is, um, to split it out. And I think it depends,
Yeah.
like in this case, on product, right? So we
Okay.
have a core product that people know us for. You don't need an awareness campaign. We just want to stay top of mind.
Hmm.
For new products, when you're going for a full go to market launch, if you don't
Yeah.
have that air cover, so to speak, from an awareness campaign, your salespeople are going to be out there doing all that awareness first, and that is a
Hmm.
huge waste of their time. They should not be out there driving awareness. They should be deep into the funnel with educating about why the right product is the right fit for them and how it solves for their pain points. But the customer should already have a basic idea
Yeah.
long
Makes sense.
before they're in front of a salesperson.
Yeah. Makes sense. I like the approach. I honestly did not think about it this way. But yes, if you cannot run a lead gen without awareness, you can run awareness without lead gen, but it's not recommended except if it's
Right.
absolutely necessary.
Right. I mean, if
Um,
that's all your budget allows for is doing, social and some SEO and things like that, I mean, you said 5 million, which is healthy,
mhm.
depending on the size of the organization. But yeah, I mean, you can raise that awareness. There's a lot of things you can do. Um, and then a little bit more will fall onto your salespeople to do more prospecting, more of their own, but at least they're
Yeah.
prospecting. If you're
Yeah.
asking the salespeople to go out there and there's no knowledge in the market about what you're offering, I mean, you're setting them up to fail, and your leads
Yeah.
are going to be lousy, right? Because
Yeah.
um, the MQL is a dying metric, in my opinion. And I know we're talking to marketing people here, and
Mhm.
sorry, but
No, it's okay. We
you
sh-
know
we
the
shake we shake the tables on this podcast, so
yeah,
that's good.
the MQL is dying, man. Nobody nobody's excited about, oh, okay, somebody clicked on this and they submitted a form. People submit forms all day, every day.
Yeah.
How many times you see something that looks interesting and you're like, okay, yeah, I want a little bit more information, but then the information comes and you're just not ready to buy, or you're not really the decision maker. You just wanted to hear a little bit more. To marketing, that's great. Oh, he clicked, he filled out the web form.
That's right.
We got engagement. They're doing, they're running around high-fiving, and the salesperson's like, what the hell is this? Like, this person has no budget, no need. They're not even an influencer. So that's what I say, when I say the MQL is kind of dead or dying. And that, again, goes back to the awareness. I mean, raising the awareness is great, but you want to drive revenue, and you got to connect that stuff back to revenue.
Yeah, makes sense. So you're looking at SQLs, right? Sales qualified leads?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. That's another mind shift for you there, guys. Again, it's been 11 years in marketing, so I know this is not easy. Sometimes I walk, Richard, and I'm saying, Jesus, I got to do this, but I know I'm risking a lot, even my job. But I think, like we've always said on this podcast, as marketers, we should be able to, even if we cannot demonstrate success all the time, no human is successful all the time.
Sure.
We should be able to demonstrate the process, to say, right, I am making a commitment to you, leadership. I'm not going to measure MQLs because I know they are not enough value. Yes, they are a good audience, but they are not enough value for bottom line. But this is the SQLs, and it's 0 at the moment. Please take it as it is. This is what I'm going to do to make it better. Do you agree?
Right. I do agree. And I do want to, extend an olive branch here to my, I have a marketing background. I'm in the marketing organization, but I almost look at MQLs the same way a sales leader looks at activity. It's a leading indicator, right? So when you're a sales leader, ultimately you want a high conversion ratio. You want your people closing deals, but you understand it takes time to close a deal. So you look at things like how many touches, right? Have you made how many phone calls have you made? How many emails have you sent? Have you reached out to this prospect via LinkedIn Sales Nav or other things like that? So you're still looking at that activity. You're just not reporting that to the CEO or your board. You're not going to the board and saying, my people made 10,000 phone calls this year. But as a sales leader, you have to look at that. So it's the same idea with MQLs. Obviously, MQLs are an important leading indicator because it means you're driving engagement. It means you're hitting people. The most important thing you could do with those MQLs is see how many become SQLs and then know that those are the channels you should be investing in. So there's value there if I'm a marketing person. But to your point, I'm not going to my CEO anymore and saying, oh, I drove 5,000, MQLs. Okay, well, how many of them became real revenue that we can report to the board or that we can report to the shareholders? That's, that's what's important. So activity is important as a leading indicator, but, ultimately, from where I sit in an organization like mine, we're looking at hard revenue and backtracking. Okay, where are we investing, and are we looking at the right channels and things like that?
Yeah. So far you've delivered gold, Richard. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, Apple, Spotify, Marketing Leadership, do it now. And guess what? There's still a lot to come. Now, Richard, some of the at the core of all this, in some perspective, is the application of marketing technology, or if you like, marketing to sales technology. So how should enterprises especially better approach the concept of the digital transformation so that customer experiences are, let me put it this way, are not left in the cracks? And I'm saying that because with enterprises, they manage a lot of things. So they are managing a lot of campaigns at the same time. There's a tendency for a CMO to forget a customer experience of a particular product line or of a particular initiative, and that remains dormant. And customers are complaining, the conversion funnel is not great, well, we no longer use bounce rates these days. The engagement on that website is not great. So do you have you, through your organization or some other history, had an efficient and improved digital transformation at scale?
Sure. Yeah. So when thinking about how to better approach digital transformation, first and foremost, it's really important to define like the 2 or 3 big pain points that your go-to-market teams are having, that technology can solve for. So, like for instance, at SwissRe, we have a very lean tech stack by design, because it works for what we need and it doesn't overload the sales team or the marketing team with too much, right? And this goes back to, we're a financial services firm. Our sales cycle is very long. Our relationships are very deep, right? So at the national level, we maybe have 20 clients in our target market, total, right? The big insurance carriers that everybody in America has heard of. And I'm just speaking in my region, America, like Nationwide and State Farm. And then at the global level, there's maybe 20 more, right? Zurich, Chubb, AIG, those big firms. So we have deep relationships with these firms. So we don't need a ton of stuff kind of overloading the salespeople. Now, in roles where I've worked with a more transactional sales force, we've had tools like Zoom Info for contact data, sales enablement and engagement tools, coaching tools like Gong, and so on. So when evaluating those tools, I always kind of approach it, and I think of the seller the way your seller thinks about their customer, right? Because sellers are sales enablement's clients. So there's a saying that I've heard before, no one wants a 3/4 inch drill bit. They want a 3/4 inch hole, right? So they have to buy the drill bit to get the hole. So
Exactly.
what's the real issue? Do our salespeople need better contact data, or that they need to spend less time searching for contact information? Do sellers want a content management tool, or do they want curated marketing assets that are readily available to send to the right persona? So you have to think about those things. And I always say, resist the urge to throw a new tool at every problem, right?
Yeah.
You don't need technology to solve for everything. You don't need a dozen tools in your tech stack. Another piece of it is involving all the teams in the decision process, right? So if it's a sales enablement tool, marketing is still going to be providing the content. So ensure that they have a say. Have your top salespeople and managers involved to test the tool. Does it do what they need to do? Sales ops will likely be leading the integration with IT and with the other tools. So they need a say, along with, of course, like legal and procurement. And then, finally, ensure that there is a very robust and sound change management plan in place, right? Your vendor needs to provide coaching and training resources for all the user groups, include sales enablement, include marketing. I personally have seen very good tools with huge investments behind them sit idle because the change management program was lacking, and then adoption suffers. And then those customer experiences that you were talking about that you're trying to solve for, getting the right information to the right customer, they never get solved for because even though we have the tools, no one uses them.
Yeah, makes sense. We will be going on a commercial break soon. Commercial break from our sponsors. And before I do that, I would like to recap some of the things you said for our listeners. First thing is the change management. I think sometimes because we go through the stress of developing a solution, whether it's marketing or sales, we can't just wait to get it out there. We can't wait to let go. But then, getting that product ready is the maybe 50% of the process. The other 50% is getting people to use it, getting people to accept the fact that, we just have to use this. We've always been used to this one, and then they are bringing this, or maybe we see a point in using this, and then we can now use it. The other thing you mentioned is keeping things simple. That has been part of my own personal marketing philosophy, is find your situation, find your product market fit, and develop the tech stack that fits that product market fit. where sales and marketing is looping. You don't need to, like, you just to put your words back here, throw a new tool at every problem. Use what works for you. Start with a strategy, which no tool can provide. That analysis, that insights that you gather from data, how you see customer behavior, where you see the loopholes and things like that. Get that resolved first. And sometimes the solutions is not even tools based. It's often about mindset sometimes, or it's just, somebody made a mistake or something like that. So I like a lot of all those solutions that you put in there. And before we let you go, we'll still ask a few more questions. But before then, let's take a quick word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. If you're a business needing content promotion, podcast campaign production, or are looking to build effective B2B marketing strategies, Dots is here to offer you ultimate marketing leadership and expertise. Find out more at www.dotslovesmarketing.com.
Okay, it's the Marketing Leadership Podcast, and with me here is Richard. It's been an amazing chat so far with great insights that, they are so premium that you wonder why we are doing this for free. Anyway, I would let us, we won't end this episode without going through attribution, marketing attribution. And attribution, you had mentioned a little bit about, the SQL and MQL. That's one bit of that as well. But I would like to ask you, what are your top three B2B sales enablement KPIs that have a big of marketing contribution in it?
Sure. The three things that we look at, number one, we call it at SwissRe hit ratio. It's really your conversion ratio, right? It's how many leads become opportunities, how many opportunities convert, and what channels convert the best. So again, that goes back to that idea of looking at where those MQLs are coming from, and investing in those channels. The second thing, and I think this is huge just for any sales enablement group, and it again kind of goes back to where marketing can help accelerate the deal funnel, is deal velocity, right? We have a very, very long deal cycle here, sometimes as long as 2 years.
Wow.
But certainly no less than 9 to 12 months. So we're always looking at ways to speed that up. So again, investing in the right tools, trying to mitigate activities that take away from time spent with the client, and so forth, right? So if I can reduce that deal cycle, if each seller can close maybe one more deal per year, right? Instead of it being a 12 or 18 month, it could be, a 6-month deal cycle. What does that mean in terms of hitting our revenue goals? It's a very powerful metric, and it's one that marketing, again, plays a huge role in, because it's about educating the client, raising that awareness.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is even a little bit beyond maybe the SQL, it's qualified meetings, right? So when you think about performance marketing or revenue marketing, obviously we'll always, like I said, care about those impressions and care about engagement. But we need to understand which leads are truly qualified and where those leads are coming from. But we're really looking at meetings even beyond sales qualified leads.
Oh, that's interesting. Like meetings with the AEs or something like that?
Qualified, meeting with a qualified buyer, meeting with somebody who can really make a decision. That's a huge metric of ours that we look at. And I think, again, we do look at the SQLs and, sales accepted leads and things like that. But really, we like to be able to report on and say, no, we sat in front of this many people who had this decision-making authority.
Yeah, makes sense. I would like to ask something related to that, and that is attribution models.
Sure.
So you've given something that sounds like that, in the sense of hitting the decision-making entity of that prospect from a B2B perspective, and whether it's the first interaction or last interaction, just hitting that would often give faster results than other things. But I would like you to, and feel free to explore your mind here. I would like you to tell us, from an attribution perspective, from a B2B marketing to sales journey, at what hit points do you think people that show a leading indicator that these people might convert more than in other areas? I'll give you a good example. So, for example, we are in a scenario where we are running awareness and lead generation campaigns, and then there's lead nurturing campaigns. So, what would you say contributes more at that level? Are we, talking about people who are already familiar with the brand at some point and maybe went on shopping someplace else? Do you get more traction from those who haven't heard of what you do before and say, oh, this is great, I might have some B2B lead that might be useful for this, and then they are doing that at the first time and that is working out? Or is it like a time decay thing where this person must work with you for 24 months in order to build that relationship and then close the deal? Or, for example, is it something in between? I don't want to over fragment the models here.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
you nailed it with the time decay, right? So I like linear attribution models. I think you're right. Like last click is not really accurate, and I think first click is even worse. And like, I mean, I never understood that one. I mean, there's days where, I walked on a car dealership once and I looked at a car and is that a first click? I mean, and I never buy that car. I mean, it just,
exactly.
I see a commercial for something I can't afford. But I go on the website anyway. So first click is ridiculous. I tend to lean towards a weighted model, so like a time decay model, because when you think about these very long sales cycles, you kind of have to give credit to the multiple places where our prospects and even our current clients are getting their info, right? They're going to get an email touch as a current client or a prospect. They might meet us at a conference, right? We're huge on conferences. The insurance industry, we love our conferences. There's a few very, very large ones every year. There's one that just happened in New York City this past week called InsurTech, which is, obviously all the big InsurTechs and all the big carriers go to it. So you have a conversation there. Then they see, something on LinkedIn, they download a white paper, they see a case study, they get another email. I tend to, but I do weight things that are closer to the conversion higher, because I do think it's always those last few things that kind of drives them to accept a meeting or request a demo of one of our tools on the solution side. But yeah, when you're talking about an 18-month sales cycle, I mean, there's no way you could say accurately that the first email they saw or the first LinkedIn post they saw is where all of it should be attributed. And you can't really say that the last thing that they saw is where that might be the thing that drives them to convert into a meeting or a demo. But, maybe 6 months down the road, they saw, they met you, you were in the city that their offices are in, you stopped by, you had lunch, you left them with some collateral. Then 2 months later, you did a phone call. And then finally you said, hey, just so you know, XYZ is happening. Your peers are looking at this. Would love to show you a little bit more. Maybe that gets the highest weight because it's very super relevant, but it's all those little things before it. Those all mean something, right? Because it drives that awareness, it drives that knowledge, it drives that top of mind, those actions, the website clicks, things like that. So it all means something. But yeah, when it comes to attribution, a weighted time decay, linear thing is to me, the way to go. Now, if it's a much shorter sales cycle, some people out there have very short sales cycles, 30 days. It might be different, but when you're talking about, like I said, an 18-month sales cycle in some cases, there's no way you could attribute everything to just one. It's the very definition of nurture.
Yeah, I think any level of B2B would require time decay. Even if it's like a 3-month cycle, a lot goes on in 3 months. You will not believe. So yeah, except for B2C, where you might have all these other attribution models play out, and customers can make a sale on their own. Yeah, that's when really we can talk about that. But here with B2B, it's really about the time decay, just as you said. And I've even seen some clients take this further in trying to drive lifetime value. So they invite their clients over for a podcast episode and have them talk about their experience, have them talk about their own impact and how they've been able to achieve even more through the brand, how that brand has empowered them to do more for their market, and how that relationship helps to even drive more deals from the same clients that you have. So it doesn't really stop at the deal. Lifetime value is one of the very key KPIs. Everybody is, you subscribe for a shaving razor these days. You subscribe for everything. Shows why everybody's looking at lifetime value, especially from the B2B side of things. And all the other examples that you mentioned with regards to whether it's email, whether it's events, whether it's white paper, whether it's some other physical engagement, whether it's the giftings, right? With a customized collateral or things like that. But basically, anything that enables the sale to happen eventually and also enable the sale to continue. I may not be surprised to find out that marketers stop at sales acquisition because it takes a lot to get there. But my message to you guys is, if you're listening, there's still a lot of work to do. Building lifetime value is really what sets a lot of companies apart for B2B competitive advantage. So absolutely, having to use those channels, having to use those touch points to continue to support, to continue to educate, to continue to even entertain if you want, just to keep that relationship going is important. It's a very long marketing cycle. And I like talking about this because those who think marketing is easy can now know that it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy, and it's thankless in a lot of ways, because sometimes you have CEOs, who are very numbers driven. Maybe they come from the finance side or the strategy side, and to them, marketing is just, it's a must have, but they don't look at it as the investment that it's supposed to be. They look at it as an expense line. And that's why I'm big on the revenue marketing, this new idea of revenue marketing that's becoming so prevalent now, where it's all about connecting back to where, where you're driving the money from. There's clear ROI. And I like what you said about having current clients, almost like testimonials. One thing we do at SwissRe, though, we have client advisory boards where we literally invite our clients. We show them a good time in New York, and they come to our offices, and then we go out to dinner. But the crux of it is they sit around, and we don't sell to them anything. We tell them what we're doing, and we have them play a part in the process.
Nice.
Like, what are you seeing in the market? What are you seeing? What trends are you seeing? And where can we innovate better to serve you and your peers? And that's just, not only is it huge for driving that that lifetime value, because these are some of our best clients, and we're saying we want you to advise us as clients. But then we also can tell that to other clients and say, hey, these products were not just developed by market research and in a focus group, but they were literally like worked on by your industry peers.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. We could go on, and I really, really enjoyed all this. Personally, I've learned a lot myself, and I really thank you for your valuable perspective on this subject. Where can our marketers find you, Richard, if they need the ingredients of true growth marketing or revenue marketing?
Yeah, you could find me on LinkedIn mostly. That's where I'm at. I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about sales and marketing alignment. I think it's critical. I don't think I'm obviously not alone there. I didn't invent this idea, but in 17 years of since I finished undergrad, I've been a part of organizations that have done it well and organizations that have not done it well. And I could tell you the places that people like to work, where salespeople thrive, where they hit quota, are the places where sales and marketing work in tandem with each other and not as, two different departments.
Yeah.
So yeah, LinkedIn, I'm always open to being messaged there, and talking about this kind of stuff. But this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish sales enablement is as viral as ChatGPT for marketers, but we'll see. We'll see.
Right.
Yeah. That's all for today, guys. Thank you for listening. Please see more episodes at dotlovesmarketing.com. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple and Spotify, Marketing Leadership. Till next episode, connect the dots.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. There will be links to any resources mentioned in today's show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.